We will go ahead and call the June 30th Board of Directors meeting to order. Can we get roll call, please?
Ms. Atkins, Mrs. McDaniel. Here. Mrs. Peterson, Mrs. Shuffle. Here. Mr. Sorensen,
Here.
Mr. Sturm,
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Here. Approval of the June 30th, 2025 agenda. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. Consent agenda. I don't think there was any other updates, just bills, right?
Just bills, and the bills are for the June 30th. It just happened to work perfectly. that we had the
Absolutely.
special meeting today as well. So those are just the year-end bills for FY25.
Okay. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. Discussion items 4.01, Lewis Central High School 2026 mechanical upgrade design proposal.
So this is from Brett Wallace. Says attached is a design proposal from Morrissey Engineering to do the design, bid docs and administration of the bid for the proposed 2026 LCHS mechanical work. The scope of the work I requested, we discussed on the site as follows. So Jim, can you give us kind of a overall layman's update for what is included in the mechanical upgrade?
Yes,
Design.
most of it will be at the athletic end still, where we continue with that upgrade. We're going to be replacing, I believe it's the rooftop units on basically all of Area D. So that would be the wrestling room and the locker rooms, if I remember correctly. Also, I'm not sure if Unit 1 is included in that. That is the only one on Area D, when we're completed doing all this, that will remain on the existing children. Also, we're going to be at that time replacing the individual control. As you all remember, we did a front end system for the controls. We will go ahead and update the individual controls that are in each VAV box and each air handler and all that stuff as part of this project. So it'll put us in really great shape in that athletic wing, especially right now.
And this is just the design, so they
Yeah.
can come up with the design and the bid docs, and then obviously they'll have to go to bid and everything else, but they want to get the design done because of they want this work to be done next summer. So we got to get it designed so we can get it out to bid, so then they can start that wonderful waiting period to get stuff in. So.
Any other questions? Okay, then we will move to 4.02, concrete change order, Lewis Central High School and Titan Hill.
So two different change orders, but they're kind of on the same company, same bid. So the Titan Hill and ERC would be replacing, so the island where the buses drop off and pick up kids, that was something that was left off originally as we were bidding stuff out to make sure that we could stay under budget. Luckily for us, we're over $1 million under budget just on the Titan Hill project alone. So this will be going back in and finishing that concrete on the island between the parking lots. It's also replacing the majority of the, what do they call that, ADA walkways, so the little
Yeah, they're-
bumper plates and that kind of stuff. So it actually replaced the concrete and the bumper plates in those areas. And then it's finishing a lane around like a sidewalk / you could park on it if you want to, around the south side of the building back to the pool entrance. So that way we can make that the main entrance for like Iowa Western, so they can go in there. Right now, it's just kind of a drop off into the mud. And then when they do that, it would be, there's a gate back there that they use for loading and unloading large items. And that's busted off, somebody backed into it at some point. And so they would be fixing that gate, making that concrete go back there. We've had some issues with some of the kids the coaches from Iowa Western leaving a door unlocked, which then, because they have to go through the main entrance of the school, and then they kind of leave a door unlocked, or, it doesn't shut all the way or whatever. I'm not saying it's intentional, but we've had some students, some of our elementary students kind of get back there to the pool area, and we don't want that. That's a safety hazard. So just kind of moving the entrance for them and saying, now you're just going to use this entrance, removes all risk then at that point. So it's so getting that done. Total price for that is $54,776. They did have to honor the pricing that they gave us when they bid out the whole project, so we're getting kind of the same pricing that they gave us there. There is a mobilization fee on there. It's because they had already removed all of the stuff that they used to break up, and the kind of like demolition crew that's already demobilized and gone, so they'd have to bring them back on site. The people that do the sidewalks are already gone, so they'd have to bring them back on site. So that was my biggest concern, because I know that they're already here. So Mr. Director Sturm brought up a great point as far as like, why are we remobilizing when they're here? That's why. So, and then the high school, there's a kind of a long island that goes between the main parking lot and what I would call what is that, the west parking lot, the one that's kind of closest to the grass fields. And we don't really have any sidewalks in the parking lot, so that would create so there's a sidewalk that runs between the school and the parking lot. This would then be a sidewalk that would continue all the way down towards the football field. So if you park along the school or something like that, you don't necessarily have to walk through the parking lot. You could get on a sidewalk, and be able to go that way. It also cleans up that part that we've not been able to grow grass there consistently. Tons of rocks, there's some kind of trees in there that, so anyway, it would just be finishing that off. And then it also puts in a walk-in gate. So I would love it if our community could have more access to some of our facilities. Controlled access. It's a gate that we could close and lock, if the weather's bad or, we have an event or something like that. But it's a switchback gate, so it's actually not something you can bring a bike in. You just one person, you kind of go back and forth through it. So it'll install that switchback gate by the baseball entrance, so the community can have access instead of having to jump fences. So.
Any questions, comments on that concrete change order?
Yeah, I do. Just so there's no secret, I will say that I'm gonna be against this. I'm for the gate, to public to be able to utilize that part of it. As far as the concrete goes, they did honor the per square foot price of the concrete. But they did charge us the mobilization fee twice. It's on both invoices. Larger companies do charge a mobilization fee. This stuff is all small enough that smaller contractors could also handle this. And like Dr. Hazing talked about, the islands in between the parking lots and where the grass is down in the high school and where the kids get off of the buses here, just know that none of the curbs get touched. So you're gonna have new parking lot, you're gonna have a new sidewalk, and you're gonna have curbs that are trashed. And then the ADA panels, unfortunately, there's no way to get around them deteriorating. The salt gets behind them, it freezes, thaws, and then it starts popping them out. And there are a handful that could stand to be replaced. But that's just one panel, and this is like whole sidewalk sections. And like concrete, the way concrete works is, where do you stop? Do you skip this panel and you go to this one, and it just keeps going? So I think my recommendation, or what I would lean towards, is to not do this right this minute. Let's get a little further along in all of our projects before we're thinking that we're ahead of the game money-wise. Because there's still gonna be, we're gonna have this change order again next year, because we're gonna find more concrete that needs repaired.
Are the curbs really tore up?
There are.
A couple areas, yeah. But when you start adding curbing in, the cost gets crazy, so.
Yeah, it gets a lot more expensive when you do the curbs.
Does it compromise our sidewalks though if we leave the curb the way they are?
No,
Yeah,
not
replace
necessarily.
it?
It's the concrete replacement be more for, like, there's a couple areas in the, and I pointed out that on our tour, where it's a pretty big trip hazard. I mean, you can grind them down, you can do some others, but there's, especially where the kids get off the bus right there, like that concrete's pretty uneven. And so it'd be replacing that concrete. We could come back in at a different time and cut in new curbs. I mean, we're gonna pay for it.
It'll destroy your sidewalk when you cut in new curbs. It's better to do it just all at one time.
But waiting, we still have the tripping hazards. And so
Yeah.
if we go ahead and do it now, it'll alleviate that, correct?
Yeah,
It would alleviate some of the tripping hazards, but you still get left with a, like me and Hazing had talked about, he's like, well, you're gonna have he used the parking lot, I think, at the high school as an example. He says, so you're all right with doing a $2.5 million parking lot, but yet leaving this, just with mud or dirt or the grass that we can grow. And I said, I'm not against the whole project. I said, I'm just against the timing of the project. So when you talk about trip hazards, it just depends on which trip hazard you're talking about. Because yes, you will address some of the ADA panels that need addressed, which I agree they do, some of them do need addressed. But you still have the trip hazards of the damaged curb that will stay in place.
now one of the things we could do is, we talked about this after we'd walked it last week, is we could also go back and ask for a separate change order for the board to consider that would just also replace the curbing, just at the curbing at the high school, that's all new curbing, because that island was actually put in when they did the auditorium. So that's all new curbing right there. This is not new curbing. So if the board wanted to, you know, I could also go back and ask them, you know, can you get me a change order to replace the curbing as well as that, you know? And if it's under 20, I can just approve it, or I can bring it to you guys either way and have you guys review that as well. I know that they're planning on pouring that lot, you know, this week, and they wanna get, some of this is all timing too, you know? If they have us on our schedule, they can get it done, so. I mean, that would be something the board can consider too. Again, on Titan Hill alone, we're $1 million below, so, of what we had budgeted. Not saying we had to spend $1 million, I don't wanna do that, like, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if we'd have known we were gonna be this far under budget, we would have included all of it, you know? We'd have been like, wow, okay, we could have gotten more done at the same time, so. And that's really what, one of two things, and we had talked about this, I think I made this known with all of you, is one of the things that we're trying really hard not to do is not shortchange ourselves, you know, like if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. And to Director Sturms, like that's what he wants to make sure we do it right, and I totally agree with that. The other thing is making the money stretch as far as possible. And I did provide you guys an update in your email as far as, you know, the money that we still have available. Like right now, we're sitting at about $3.1 million. I thought we were 2.8, so about $3.1 million under budget. So there's still some latitude. Not saying we want to spend all that, we want to carry it through to the end of the project. If we were sitting here at, let's say, $250,000 under budget, there's no way I would come to you and say, let's spend half of that on the sidewalk and not carry anything forward, you know? At 3.1, I feel like there's, in my budgeting mind, and that's what you guys have me do, is we have the latitude to say we can do some things now and then other things hold off and wait until everything's done, you know? But while they're here, the recommendation is while they're here and they're getting after it, have them knock it out kind of at the same time.
Well, but it's not because they're here. They're coming back. They're charging us another mobilization fee just as if they weren't here.
Right.
So you really can't put it that way. It's like while the project is being done, you can, you know, say it would be 80% completed, but just because they're here, they're still charging us the going rate that they're charging us. They're still charging us another mobilization fee. So I would almost, like I said, the mobilization fee bugs me, because if they were already here, you know, they could do that. And then we're gonna set up this way, we're gonna pay 2 more mobilization fees next year when we have them come in and fix the little stuff around the other schools. And not to mention, we have a huge project at the high school with the front facade for the school security. And while it looks good on paper, that's not, you know, that may not be reality, we don't know. We have a huge project at the middle school, which everybody has already warned us that is gonna be just a big mess. And so I think all of the cash reserves that we can hold back on for right this minute, I think that would be the wiser thing, I think.
So what's the percentage of the mobilization fee? Is it 1%, point?
I think it was around $3,000, is that what it was?
It's
This
so
is
they're
only
not-
1,500.
Yeah.
The second one is 2287, so
Yeah,
that was my
23.
question. Why, what's the difference?
It's the amount of work that they have to come back and do, so. And it's two fees, because it's 2 locations. They're counting that as
Right.
location, this location.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, and like I said, that's why I bring it to the board. It's your guys' prerogative. One of the things we do risk is right now we're getting the pricing that they had guaranteed. If we go and we get independent contractors to bid it out, you could potentially be paying, I mean, it's a risk, right? Like you could
Right.
potentially be paying more than what's given to, than what this is offering here. even if they don't, even if the smaller companies say, we're not gonna charge a mobilization fee, they can still come in at 20% higher, you know?
So is there a way that they can negotiate those if that's?
That was my next
We,
question.
we already asked,
They
yeah,
said no.
it's non-negotiable.
So I would say though, when it comes to concrete, I am always a get it done kind of person because my mother-in-law fell from a piece that was up and she hurt her face, her knees, like, it wasn't a good thing.
Right.
And I think the amount of kids walking through that area, if it's in a high traffic area, that makes me nervous. But
Well, and then
the curb part is weird to not have it included. If we're gonna cut into it again, will it compromise the sidewalks?
Right. And like I said, I can, if you guys want to go a little further and say, yep, we're interested, we want curbs as well,
Yeah.
we could definitely get some numbers on curb, yes.
I also, the reason we didn't include the curbs is because what we talked about at the time was it's a much smaller project because what happens is when the bus turns those corners, so you got something the width of a tire that needs repaired, not the entire curb.
Okay.
And so our thought was, let's get this major concrete project done, and then we can work on repairing those small sections of curbs as we go. There is a trip hazard there at that tire wide split, part of the curb. The curbs do need repaired in those small areas, but the entirety of the curb is actually very sound.
Okay.
well, and that's what I was thinking
As long
too,
as- I didn't
because,
see, I mean, I don't remember it looking terrible anyways, because I'm up there.
There are a couple sections that are
But,
pretty
yeah,
bad,
so I
yeah.
think that I would do it that route where.
Well, and I think Bubba and us are actually, sorry, shouldn't have said that.
That's all right with me.
Director Stern.
We're actually on the same page as far as, when it comes to concrete, you've got to draw a line somewhere, because it could just become such an extensive project. And we've been trying to work within the budget and get as much as we can out of it, not knowing exactly where we're gonna land without going too far. And some of those things we've thought, let's go this far, and then if we still need to do that, we can do that as a smaller project out of a maintenance budget.
Okay.
And so it's not that those thoughts haven't been considered, it's just that we've got other avenues to get that done if we have to.
because I agree with you, you're walking the length of a sidewalk, and if it's up and down in that versus this much when I step up on a curb.
Yeah.
I will add that that sidewalk that you're talking about replacing down that island is where kids load and unload off the bus every single day.
Daily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's one of the most used sections of sidewalk we have.
right, right, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, that was a tough thing to watch, my mother-in-law fall from a piece that had
Sure.
moved up. And she's 77 years old, so anyway, I think that, and with all the kids, because I see that happening when all those kids are walking out, it's an important part to fix.
So if you said that we just have like if we already know we have spots here and there on the curb, is that something that we can?
Can they,
Can we,
Yeah, so,
like,
so
if we
anything that's under
know-
20,000, I can review. So that's one of the things we talked about, is we would bring that up in the board, and if you're like, hey, while you're at it, you know, we can approve the bid as it is right now, and then I can approve any change order that's under 20,000. And if we're just talking about certain sections, that's gonna be less than 20,000. It just, you guys just have to know that on top of the 54,000 you're approving for that sidewalk, we're also gonna have another, I don't even know what a curb costs, 5,000 and, you know, and
It all depends.
little piece of curbing,
Yeah,
so.
it all depends on if they tear it out and the curb holds. It wouldn't be, you could still be 15 or better for very little curb.
Because I agree with Bubba in the sense of,
Curb get pretty expensive pretty fast.
Yeah.
or with Director Sturm, I agree with, if we're paying them to come out here, if we know we have a little section, or if we know that we have, I don't
Yeah.
want to pay them to have to come back out here,
Right.
you know, again, that's,
Well, and like, again, like, these are, like, these projects, like, when they're done, they're done. We won't see them back here next year unless they win another project. Like, if they win the middle school project or, you know, another paving project, then they will. Otherwise, they're done. When they finish pouring the last bit of concrete, and put up the last bit of fencing, we won't see them back, so.
When you say the remainder of the curbs are sound, is that for how many years? Does it look
Oh,
like it has a life in, or that's hard to tell, because that's where a
It
bus
mainly
could.
depends on how, I'm gonna say how picky you want to be. Like I said, this one's cracked a little bit, this one's gone, so do you take it all out, or is that little crack okay?
the problem with taking it all out too is then you risk like, we have a brand new piece of concrete right out here and it's already busted out. I mean, so you could replace the whole thing and within a year have certain areas busted out, especially when you have tires, bus tires rubbing into it all the time, so.
Is there a warranty with that? Like, how does that work with concrete?
No, it does two things, it gets hard and cracks.
I just don't know how it works.
Unfortunately, anything that melts ice will eat concrete.
Okay.
And since we're a school, we do use a lot of salt. Would it be possible if we didn't do this year, next year when we get a little further along, we issue one contract for the district for any miscellaneous?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely, yeah, you can do whatever
the
you
stuff
want.
The stuff that is bad, even the ADA panels, they didn't go bad in the last year. You know, that would be, I would guess 4 or 5 years at least of corrosion. And I don't look for a huge change in 1 year. But if we did it under an umbrella of the district, we would not have individual mobilization fees and that
Well, you
kind of
can't
stuff.
say that. They might, that probably in their quote, they would figure you're going from this place to this place, so they would probably include it in there. This is just right here because they're here and we're adding on. It's a change order, so we're adding on.
Right.
And so for them to extend being here, this is the cost. That's the way I take it. And they have to bring up their new their equipment again and
So is there
whatever
fees
else they
and all
need.
that stuff within the mobilization fee? Because I'm not familiar with how that works. Like, what is all included with the mobilization fee?
Some of that equipment is extremely large. For example, if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of that mobilization fee was because some of the equipment's already here on the tennis court area. But you literally have to haul in a huge truck. So you can't drive that on the lot, you can't drive it across the road. So you have to bring in a big truck, even if you're moving it 100 yards.
Right.
So you gotta pay for that truck in
Okay.
order to move that equipment.
Yeah,
So,
That's good to know, because I wasn't familiar with that either.
Yeah.
But I do think that the people in our district are wanting us to take care of our parking lots and our sidewalks. That's a big complaint that we had, and I think we should do it if they're already here, you know, personally, but
I
do understand what
texted,
he's saying, but I think that just by hearing what people are saying, they want that taken care of. The parking lots are terrible, the sidewalks, people tripping, and if we already have people out here and it's already getting work done, you might as well go the rest of the distance with it. If we're under budget, why not?
one thing that I forgot, the thing that was included in the high school mobilization fee was because of the increase in the amount of project, the increase in the bond. They added the price of the bond increase into the mobilization fee at the high school. So that's the difference between, is they're increasing their bond amount.
Yeah.
And they just put that in with the mobilization fee at the high school. So that's why that's different.
And just a reminder that they have to carry a bond.
Right.
Yeah, they have to be bonded in order to do the projects on our property, so. So everybody will charge us that back to us, they don't need that cost.
I gotta say, I agree with Bubba on trying to limit the mobilization fees where we can when we negotiate with these companies. But at the same time, we didn't have any small contractors bid. So that's part of the danger and the risk of what we do with an open bidding process is that we have these larger companies come in and those fees are assessed whether we want them to or not. They're still gonna bill us. To Aaron's point, I kind of agree with, if you're doing it right, I'm a big believer of right first time. And on that walk that we did prior to coming into the meeting, I would have a really hard time with putting all this work into fixing that concrete and then leaving that side rough over by Titan Hill, and with a busted gate and stuff like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I guess my question for you, Bubba, is for both of these projects for Titan Hill and the high school, are you voting against both or just them both together?
Well, I mean, they have it on the agenda as all one package. I mean, it's all the concrete, the gate, you know,
But is it all one quote or
So
is it
it's
two
it's-
separate?
It's two quotes, so you could either approve them together as it's listed, or you could vote on the Titan Hill ERC, which does include the gate and all the concrete work. And then, then you could vote on the high school, which includes the walking gate and the high school island. So you could break it out to those two quotes if you want. We would just have two motions under that.
I guess as it is now, I guess I would say that I would be against both of them
Okay.
because of the,
Can I just clarify a comment that you made about the mobilization fees? Just so that you guys understand is, part of the problem that we face is the legal hoops that we have to jump through in order to maintain compliance through school and state code. So if this had been a $20,000 project and Brent could have approved it on the spot, we could have avoided the mobilization fees. But because it takes so long to go through the planning and get it to you guys and get it approved, they're here, done their work and gone. I mean, that's the problem is, if we were a normal business and we could react really quickly to things, those things, I mean, we saw the opportunity to do extra work with the budget, but we couldn't get it done and approved in time to have them still on site. So it's just one of those, it's kind of a catch-22 where you have to be in compliance, but yet you're missing an opportunity.
Well, and the other thing is the only reason you see it broken down the way it is, because you don't just see the mobilization fee, you'll see, can you scroll down to actually where the bid is? So you'll see all of these items. You'll see the pavement removal fence. If we go get a bid from a local contractor, you don't see all this itemized. You see that Brent Hazing Contracting is bidding this out at $54,000.
Yeah.
That, and you see that. They don't have to break it out. The only reason you see it broken out is because when we did our bidding process, the engineers required them to itemize all these items. And so when they then give us a change order, they have to do it by the itemized item. So that's why you see it. So it's not that the small contractors don't charge it. They just will give one lump sum,
Right.
you know.
Right.
well, like I said, and I'm not against it. I'm just against, it's more of a timing thing.
No, I understand. So at this time, we'll probably still recommend that they go through as one motion and then just put it up to a vote. And then, did anybody else have any additional comments that they wanted to add?
I just want to clarify for the curbing though, so if it's under $20,000, then you'll just approve it?
I'll just
to
approve
make
it.
look nice,
It-
because I do think that
it-
it'd
it
be
would-
lovely to have nice sidewalks and then a curb that looks a little.
The curb that's chewed up, we'll figure out a good stop, because they still have saw cuts in the curb and that kind of stuff. So if we can go saw cut to saw cut and get certain chunks, here's the deal, it'll look different at first because it'll look white, like white concrete versus,
It'll weather, yeah.
but it'll weather, so
Okay.
it'll all blend in. It'll all
I
crack.
just want it to be new.
Does that
Yes,
get
yeah.
painted anyway?
Yeah, I was gonna say, actually, we'll have to paint those
Yeah.
curves, so we'll just
Oh,
repaint the
yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, perfect.
Any other comments, questions on that one? Okay, then we'll move to 4.03, middle school renovation architectural services.
So, the group did meet, when I say group, I had, Director Shuffle, let's see, who else is in there? Director Adkins, and then, Director Sturm. We interviewed 2 architectural firms. We had 4 on the original list, 2 of them backed out due to timing or, the amount of work that they had going on. So we interviewed BCDM, who's currently our architect for the high school addition, and Kreft. And then we interviewed CMBA, and we, at the end of the interview for both of them, the committee did choose to pick BCDM to do our middle school renovations. They had some kind of different ideas and those types of things. So they want to get a contract so that way they can start the planning process. The problem is we don't have a very good scope yet because we had an initial budget number. Well, that might have to change a little bit. We want to, so they're gonna have to do some pre-work. And so The recommendation is to do something like we did with Shive Hattery, where we basically sign a contract with them and pay them an hourly rate to start that process of determining what the scope is and what we're gonna do. And then once we determine the final scope, the architect fee is a percentage of the total number. And then that will revert, then whenever we do that, we'll sign a new contract that says, okay, now we know what the percentage is, because it does fluctuate based on how big your scope is. And then, all the money that we would have paid up to that point will then just get factored into the, percentage. So it's not like you have to pay that hourly fee and the percentage. It'll all just get, it kind of protects them, so that way they don't do all this work, and then we get to the point and we're like, just kidding, we're not gonna do it. And then,
Never mind.
so they at least get paid something.
So it's basically like a deposit on further work.
Kind of, yeah. Paying them for pre-work that then we'll get credit for if we end up doing the whole project, so.
Any questions, comments on this?
What's their timing? I mean, are they're
They
gonna
want
start right
to
away?
start like tomorrow.
Cool.
And they will. They actually were on site last week to do some more walkthroughs and that kind of stuff. But they wanted me to get a community group together like this week. And I said, well, it's the 4th of July week. It's probably not a great week to get like a community group together. So we'll touch base tomorrow if it gets approved tonight, and then I'll start finding dates and trying to round up our facility committee and getting, at least getting some teachers and principal and that. They basically just kind of want to know, like, where do we want to go? How do we want to start? I told them it's really hard during the summer because I'd love to get all of our staff together, but I'm not going to be able to get all of our middle school staff together. But if all we're doing is starting the conversations about priorities, then I'm fine with them starting that conversation, but they need to, probably one of the first days that their staff comes back, we'll have them go through a mini workshop with them, so. But they know we want to do work next summer, and they want to honor that and try to get as much plan as possible. Middle school's a little bit complicated, so.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then we will move forward with 4.04, Lewis Central High School marquee and entrance sign.
So our marquee's been dead now, going on a little over 2 years. To just fix it with the old technology we had, which is it's almost like a clip art sign, is going to be $35,000 to $40,000. So then we said, well, maybe it's time to update the sign in general. We got 2 bids. One was from Vital Signs. This is just replacing. Their bid was just to replace the video board. So they would do a 10 millimeter pixel video board. It comes with a 5-year cell plan. That's how they update their signs. And it's the exact same size as the sign there. It would not replace the Lewis Central sign that's above. It just is using the same poles and just replacing the actual digital sign. There's a $71,200. Sandow Signs just gave us a bid as well. They would replace the video board with a 9 millimeter video board, which is actually, they're roughly the same, but the closer the pixels, the better. So the smaller the millimeter, the better. And then they would actually throw in to replace the Lewis Central sign above it. So freshen up that Lewis Central High School sign. It's kind of yellowed, so they would have freshened that above it. And then he said that they would also throw in like an extra, so that way in a year or two or something happens to the sign, they'll throw in, they'll just give us an extra one to put up there. Same size video board, 5-year cell plan, $59,953.60. So.
Thanks for mentioning the difference between the 9 and the 10. I was thinking it was like thickness of the screen or something like that.
Oh, no, that's the size of the pixels.
Okay.
So the smaller the pixels, the better the picture, so.
And these you can put whatever up, you said.
You can put whatever you
That's
want.
awesome.
You can do a little video, you can do, it's high resolution pictures versus a bouncing basketball,
Yeah.
Bouncing basketball's cool, don't get me wrong. Back in
I only saw it, I think, once.
Yeah, like
And then they didn't do it
2001, when
anymore.
they installed it, that thing was sweet, so.
Yeah. No, not when they first installed it. This is when we had to replace it.
Oh, and they replaced it.
Yeah, then it was more graphics and
Yeah.
the clock, and it would turn and stuff, and then they quit.
They got bored.
Well, they didn't have enough time to keep it up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just
It
football
was the daily-
game Friday
essentially
night.
Daily
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
From what I understand is you could take a picture on your phone with the app and I can upload it from here right now. I can take a picture of you guys and say, send it to the sign and it's updated, so. Pretty user friendly.
And
We
just
all
to-
have access to that?
I would hope not.
And just to double check,
Look at Emma's face was like,
just to double check, when
Yeah,
when Harry Langdon and that whole thing gets going 4 or 5 years from now, is our plan to revitalize that whole area and put up, or is that always gonna be staying for the extended of when we add that new, going out, like the lane going out?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good location. It's right between kind of the two, where the two lanes would be, so it probably wouldn't move. I wouldn't mind redoing the landscaping below it, but that's
The
for
sign
another
wouldn't
day.
move. We have no plans of moving the sign though,
No,
4 or 5 years
no.
from now when we, okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question,
I don't
but
wanna-
no, I wouldn't move it. You know, we'll probably have some wayfinding that says, you know, welcome to Lewis Central High School, like maybe a smaller sign, but no, not the video board.
Not the actual video, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then we will move to comments and suggestions. This is the section of our meeting where we open up the floor to anyone present or anybody online. We're good? Okay, then we will move into action items. 6.01, Lewis Central High School 2026 Mechanical Upgrade Design Proposal. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I'd like to motion to approve the agreement with Morrissey Engineering for the 2026 LC High School mechanical upgrade design for $57,200 as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 6.02, concrete change order, Lewis Central High School and Titan Hill.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the change orders for Mackey Construction for a total of $99,406.99.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
No.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 6.03, middle school renovation architectural services.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the architectural services agreement from BCDM for the middle school renovation as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 6.04, Lewis Central High School marquee and entrance sign.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to approve the high school marquee and entrance sign bid from Sandow Signs as presented for $59,953.60.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Our next scheduled meeting, July 21st. Was there anything else you wanted to add on the?
Oh, we'll have to have some conversations about conferences at some point, but. See. What happens with their survey that goes out.
I was gonna say, are they asking to have that returned by the July 20?
Well, I'm gonna have it be a 2-week survey, so we'll have it back, so, yeah. The other conference wants an answer by August 1st, so we at least need to do our due diligence and look into it. The other thing we need to do is we need to schedule a board work session. Our survey is gonna wrap up here next week, our community survey, so we need to have a board work session to review the responses from the survey that asked for priorities, and then we need to talk about, just kind of formalize what your guys' priorities are for the strategic plan, so then that way when the staff comes back in August, DLT, we can give them your priorities, and then they can go off and create goals, so.
Okay.
Just a couple more special meetings, I'll probably be, maybe we'll try to figure out a way to rope them into one, so I don't keep stealing your summer from you, so.
Okay, so hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?